Give me one last dance before we hit the ground.
Welcome to the Filmcast review of Venom: The Last Dance. I'm going to read the plot summary from the internet. Eddie Brock and Venom must make a devastating decision as they're pursued by a mysterious military man and alien monsters from Venom's homeworld. I'm David Chen here with Devindra and Jeff Kanata. Devindra, let's start with you. What did you think of Venom: The Last Dance?
Well, this is not a good movie. Okay. But I feel like we needed to put a pin in the whole Venom saga, right? Because when that first movie came out, the Ruben Fleischer directed film, I was not expecting much, but it kind of got this weird response from maybe not critics specifically, but like film Twitter, the people who are really into movies and superhero movies too online. People were really vibing with that movie because it was so unlike any other superhero movie, right? It was really just a place for Tom Hardy to go a little batshit. And that's what people enjoyed about it. And the banter between the Venom, like that, it was really Tom Hardy going ham.
He had a really unhinged performance in that movie that really sold the film. Also, I'm just going to put this out there. For some reason, the Chinese seem to really like this movie. Like, we seem to really like this series of movies. Venom,
hence, there are 3 of them.
Venom made almost as much money in China this weekend. I'm sorry, in China than as the US. I think like something about the character and their codependent relationship and like literally the aesthetic of Venom, I think resonates in China. I don't know
which is horrifying. The aesthetic of Venom, which is absolutely horrifying. So, which is also why it's weird to see.
But he's kind of cute too, though. He's kind of cute.
No,
he's kind of cute.
Venom was that a Todd McFarlane design, right?
Yes,
it was one of those things where it's like that man just makes horrific looking creatures, right? So the turn in the comics where Venom started to be kind of like a good guy. We're like, listen, you don't want to hug Venom, right? You don't want to give him a kiss. You're going to get your head bitten off. Anyway, I think we were intrigued by the first movie. I didn't really care for the first movie much. I mean, I barely remember seeing the second one, but it was interesting to kind of put a pin on this entire franchise. And I think this movie is not good, but in the trailers, which I'm not sure if you guys saw, there is a through line where it was like kind of sentimental, where it was like kind of like building up the buddy relationship between Eddie Brock and Venom, and the banter between them in the first movie was always good. Like that is the best stuff in this movie. And I kind of wish it was just that. I kind of wish it was just a road movie with them like bickering and fighting and not involving any like earth-saving plot, because it's the plot that kills this movie. Like we don't care about any of that stuff, but they do things like they run into situations like just a random family. And parts of it is just like,
but on the plus side, they do things.
They do. Well, it's kind of interesting to kind of put this character in that setting and be like, oh, I am missing this. Oh, like there's something there. It's weird how this movie is balancing the sentimentality of that buddy relationship and Eddie Brock as a character, and then just like, oh, all this like stupid plot that we do not give a shit about. Bad movie, but I kind of wish they had the balls to just be like, oh, we're going to go weird with the first one. Let's go weird with this one. Let's make the, I don't know, before sunset of Eddie Brock and Venom movies or something. And it's weird how there's like 10% of that in here. And then the rest of it is just pure garbage.
It's true. They do things. Their activities are captured in a series of images and sounds that when projected in rapid succession, provide the illusion of motion.
There's 2 sides to this. On one hand, it's a bad movie, and on the other hand, things happen.
Listen, more things happen in this movie than I think some other superhero movies I can think of, honestly. Yeah.
Jeff Kanata, what did you think about Venom: The Last Dance?
Well, Dave, I guess you could say what I thought of Venom: The Last Dance is best summed up in the form of a limerick.
Oh, let's hear about it.
A lot more Tom Hardy shtick with new characters that just don't click. The action and plot should help, but do not. These parts are not symbiotic.
Oh, wow. That one hurt me.
I was proud of that.
Amazing.
I agree with the first half of what Devindra said. This is not a good movie. Where to start? This movie just throws in new characters for no reason at all. For no reason at all.
Well, you got to have the Ted Lasso reunion, Jeff. Like, you got to at least make that happen.
I guess.
Yeah.
She would tell GFR was in Ted Lasso?
There's a lot of actually very good actors who have a lot of talent that is wasted in this movie, in my opinion. Also, you know my bugaboo, guys. I'm gonna go into it, and I know this is the least of this movie's problems, and yet it bothers me that the title is The Last Dance. The titular dance in this movie is the biggest waste of time, and it's just goofy.
You're really here for the dance, Jeff. Yeah,
wow.
The literal dance.
Don't you think though that it's referring metaphorically?
Yeah,
to
figuratively. Yeah.
The title of this movie, guys, obviously should have been Venom Liberty.
Okay.
It's right there.
I thought you were gonna say
there.
V3num.
Yeah,
maybe that.
But
explain Venom Liberty. Is that a comic thing, Jeff?
What's that?
What is Venom Liberty?
Is that a comic reference?
What are you referencing?
They want the whole movie. They want to go see Miss Lady
I know
Liberty.
They want to see the Statue of Liberty, but
and that's a metaphor for what also is happening in the movie. It's right there. It's right there. Anyway,
it's not a good time for liberty in America, Jeff. You wouldn't want to put that in a movie title, you know?
I guess
yeah,
not.
That's a kind of a divisive concept right now.
I don't understand the people that are like, man, what Tom Hardy's doing in this is so delightful.
Yeah.
It's not. I hate how it just on the face of it, like the jokes in this movie and in the entire series for that matter are at the expense of any logical through line for what this creature is. Like it'll make like, is it sitting around watching movies? Because it makes movie references.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. Like that doesn't make any sense. I hate that this, as you so rightly pointed out, Devindra, this demon that Todd McFarlane designed in the comic books to be the most hideous, repulsive, scary, terrible, evil thing.
Yeah.
People liked, and so it became a hero. Okay, fine, whatever.
He is the anti-Spider-Man, and yet now we're trying to treating him like Spider-Man.
But like this movie thinks that we have affection for this. Like it assumes a level of affection that I have not achieved for this, at least the film version of Venom. And it like is like, man, isn't it sad that this is going to be the last dance? You know, it's like I don't feel that at all. And I can't overstate how preposterous this movie's introduction of characters. It does that thing. There's a scene where there are some new characters, and one of them says to the other, "Honey, we sold everything we own and we bought this camper, and now it's like he knows that. The only reason you're saying that is for the audience to know that." It does that thing that I hate in movies where we're stating our backstory to each other so that the audience can know, but there would be no conversation in life that would ever work out that way. And it happens over and over.
Yeah,
in this
it happens
movie.
Multiple times. I did notice that as well, Jeff.
Yeah,
very bad. Very bad.
The writing is terrible. The jokes don't land. Characters are thrown in. There's like an entire subplot that exists only to sort of perpetuate this franchise, or I don't even know if it's this franchise, but a Sony superhero franchise. They're trying to establish like a big bad Thanos type villain that's just a complete waste of time.
The movie starts with a scene with that person who we do not give a shit about. Like, who are you? Who are you? Why? I'm here for the Venom Eddie Brock bromance, you know?
And the movie never answers that question, who are you? It's a bad movie. I mean, it's a waste of everyone's time.
I mean, here's how much these movies don't exist in the popular consciousness is I've seen almost no one point out that Rhys Ifans, who plays a major character in this film, was also the primary villain of The Amazing Spider-Man. With Andrew Garfield.
Well, we know those movies never happened. So.
And these movies are theoretically in the same universe. You know, like
no one cares.
No one cares.
Let me tell you about multiverses, Dave. Yeah,
Jeff, you say that there's no affection. The first movie. Do you remember how much the first movie made? Guess how much money the first Venom made, Jeff Canada?
A lot of money.
$856 million.
That's insane. It's insanity.
$856 million. Now, the second movie was terrible and made less money, made $506 million. That's still.
Does anybody remember that Woody Harrelson was in that movie?
I know. Carnage.
There was Carnage.
There was Carnage.
We let there be carnage. Okay. Some quick thoughts, then we get to spoilers. Here's what's wrong with all of these movies. I have the diagnosis. Dr. Dave Chen isn't down.
Thank you. Finally.
There are two cooks in this kitchen, right? And one cook wants everything that's in a normal movie. Like, hey, we need a bad guy, and we need some people to accompany the good guy, and we need some action scenes, and we need all, and they understand what a normal movie needs to succeed. Like maybe a through line tying into the broader multiverse. Like cook number one understands like this is what a movie needs. Cook number two is like, how do we get this as close to 90 minutes as possible?
I don't think that's what cook number two is
doing. No, that's not quite. The cooks are the people, writing and directing this movie, and one of the writers is named Tom Hardy. So
there is stuff in here's another new rule that David Chen's making this year is anytime a movie has a flashback that lasts less than 5 seconds that shows a scene that was clearly filmed for this film but didn't make it in, the movie is bad. And that happens in this movie. It happened in Megalopolis where like there was a scene that flashed back to a thing we never saw. And it's like, oh, clearly there was a version of this film where that was a critical part of the movie and that's why they filmed it. And now they just put it in like a 3-second flashback because they edited this thing to shreds. I mean, on a very basic competence level, things are bad in this movie, technically. Like, Jeff has talked about the screenwriting, but also just like literally like from an editing perspective, like there's ways you edit to show like continuity of motion. Someone's walking through a scene, cut to they're walking from a different angle and slightly have advanced in the in the way that they're walking, like just basic
space
like
time,
space time, right? Literally, like just maintaining continuity of space time. Like the editing does not respect some of those basic rules because they're trying to cut it down to as short as possible.
This is also Kelly Marcel's first movie, we should point out, and she has been the screenwriter of all the Venom movies.
Yeah, she's been one of the masterminds behind this franchise.
The mastermind of the Venom.
Yeah. And that's a shame because a lot of things in this movie. There are the pieces of something actually really compelling. First of all, the actors are great, as you guys have pointed out, like multiple award-winning actors.
Yes.
I actually think the movie looks pretty great, like from a just basic sets, lighting.
There are at least a handful of scenes where it doesn't look great, and maybe we can talk about that in spoilers.
But overall, I think the movie like looks pretty good.
The titular dance is atrocious.
There's a scene on the beach that looks like it was shot in VR. It looks like they just took a
I will say
Quest.
there is one action sequence that takes place in water that I thought was actually very cool.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So there's like, the movie looks good overall. It just completely falls apart from a screenwriting and story perspective, right? Where, there are multiple sort of side characters that are supposed to have their own arcs and that just don't get them. They just don't. They're just not there. And my guess is there was some version of the script or a movie where they were in there and they just got removed. But there's some real like Beetlejuice energy in this movie where like we're just gonna throw in a bunch of characters and then like not pay any of these things off really in any way.
And the characters aren't interesting. They don't bring anything to the table. There's, I think there are a number of characters introduced because we don't have Tom Hardy for any more movies and we got to keep this baby going. So let's introduce the new
a bunch of characters we do not care about at all.
I don't think this series is going to keep going. But yes, you're right that Tom Hardy has said that this is his last dance with the character. But anyway, I think the movie is pretty bad. All that said, I do appreciate that for a brief time in our superhero saturated society, we had this character that was like a little bit different.
It's weird.
Kind of an asshole.
Weird.
Really weird that there was this kind of manic performance that Tom Hardy gave for it that's unlike other stuff we've seen. And even though none of these movies is very good and they all suffer from the same problems of just being edited to shreds and clearly being the result of studio intervention, in my opinion, they were a little bit different than most of the stuff we saw from the MCU.
I think that was the response to the first movie was just like, oh, this doesn't feel like an MCU movie. This doesn't feel like a Zack Snyder movie.
Right.
Like this feels like in a weird,
it's
different
way
lane.
less competent than either of those things, but also different.
Sometimes you just need to see like a slapstick comedy with like some special effects. That's basically what the first movie ended up being. I want to point out a couple of things. First of all, where has Chiwetel Ejiofor been? You know, he has been starring in movies.
Why does
and
he
different
have
things.
to do this?
Why does he? Poor guy.
This paid for a new addition to Chiwetel Ejiofor's house.
I guess that's okay, but I feel like
worth it.
He should be doing better work than this. He's a very talented man. Also, the you bring up the MCU, David. One of the things that annoyed me is that this movie so desperately wants to keep reminding you that it's in the same multiverse. You know, he's like, there's that scene at the beginning where he's sitting down at the bar, and they're like, "Man, there's that guy with the glove full of gems. This
is the best we can do.
He did something to me. I'm in the same universe as him, everybody. We're here."
The dreaded in association with Marvel instead of Marvel Studios. Also, Devindra, where's Chiwetel Ejiofor been? He's been directing movies such as The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind and Rob Peace. Did you see those movies, Devindra? Because if not, that's why he needs to be in Venom: The Last Dance.
Yeah, that's why. I've not heard of those movies. I did see The Pod Generation, which is an indie movie he was in, which I think, did that ever get a real release? That was at Sundance 1 year.
Yeah.
That was not very good. I heard good things about the Man Who Fell to Earth series. He did do that. That really didn't get much play.
But anyway, he's out there. He's making stuff he's passionate about. And it's probably not stuff that's very profitable, which is why he shows up for about what seems like 6 days, is my guess, to make Venom: The Last Dance, and he can continue paying for all of his stuff.
I love that he's an Oscar winner who can just still get into genre sometimes. Like he was in The Old Guard, you know, like which is a movie I hope we ever get a sequel to, but you know.
Isn't the sequel like done shooting?
Yeah, I think it's done.
Yeah.
I think it's done. Yeah. So anyway, all right. Devindra, do you have anything else, or should we get the spoilers?
Trying to think here.
Okay.
No, let's go.
Okay, let's get spoilers. Here we go. Spoilers for Venom: The Last Dance starting right now. Is it just me, or is this movie weirdly obsessed with shoes? There was multiple shots of shoes and talking about shoes, and
there's again
remember
symbolism.
That woman the scientist at the beginning, like she puts like her shoes on the shelf, and that's like
Dr. Payne.
We focus on the shoes.
Really important.
Focus on the shoes. Eddie Brock rarely has like proper shoes. It's like an ongoing joke.
Well, I mean, they just lift the thing from Die Hard.
Yeah, because he walks through glass at one point. Just like, that was fun. That was fun. I was gonna say, after watching the franchise, have you, Dave? I know you've seen the franchise. Jeff, have you seen the franchise yet?
I have not. I really want to.
The HBO original series of franchise.
That show, especially episode 3, like starts to go harder than the first two did, and after watching that show, it is like just walk-harding, terrible superhero movies, right? Like you can see this movie being a production that they make fun of in the franchise. Like among the problems in it, the characters like who don't make sense, big names being told to do embarrassing things. Juno Temple's character, Dr. Payne, fascinates me. We're introduced to her. She wakes up. Oh, something's up with her arm. Maybe we'll learn about that eventually. 5 seconds later, flashback to the worst beach scene you've ever seen in your life, where her twin brother, her brother, they're running on the beach. Oh no, lightning! He gets zapped. That entire sequence looks like it was shot in like, I don't know, like in a department store or something. Like the worst green screening you've ever seen. I just couldn't stop cackling while watching this little boy get fried to bits, and it is now the traumatic, story.
Oh wow! I guess you weren't moved by the fact that his dream was to work at NASA or whatever the hell.
No, Area 51. His dream was to find
and now
aliens.
She's like living out his brother's dream. Don't you think there's something poignant about that, Devindra?
She's wearing the same shirt she was wearing in the flashback.
Well, so you know they're the same person.
She has one shirt.
She's
a doctor who works in a secret underground base, and she owns a single shirt.
The best part of this movie is when Chiwetel Ejiofor's character goes to Area 51 and then, basically without any introduction, dissolves a truck via a vat of acid.
That
to me is it. I'm so glad you brought that up, because to me that is the perfect example of what these movies are doing.
Yes.
there is no universe where that is the methodology that anyone would use to dispose of literally anything. But we need to establish it so at the end we can sizzle the Venoms and all the alien creatures with that. Like, but it is the most clunky introduction of a thing that makes no logical sense whatsoever.
It's like, I don't believe this is how government contractors would actually dispose of Area 51.
And the way that you turn it on is you stand in splash distance and speak into a console. What the fuck?
It's like in Terminator 2, guys, where they introduce the idea of molten metal at the very beginning of the movie, you know, so you're ready for it by the end. So that you're not confused as an audience member.
What we're going to do, is we're going to create this open air acid bath.
It makes no goddamn sense, but it's like with the introduction of Null, it's just, again, it's the ingredients of what a good movie would have, which is like, oh, we have to have this big bad. We have to have this big bad. Don't set him up at all. Like, don't introduce, literally just voiceover explaining why you should care. And then some additional extremely clunky voiceover explaining what he's going after, which is this codex. Now, the thing that's really confusing to me about this film is, like, aren't we meant to understand that the connection between Eddie and his symbiote are, like, special, like, unique in some way? That's why the codex and everything. But then at the end, like, symbiotes are, like, establishing relationships with everyone. Like, is that... Was that am I making that up? Did I just hallucinate that it's supposed to be special between them?
Yeah.
Or
we're supposed to be sad when they have to part ways because it was so special between them.
And that was actually nice. I was like, so there's this moment when Venom and Eddie Brock like have this moment where they're like, hey, this is it for us. This is the last dance. And it was actually a little bit moving because I'm like, you know what? We have been through a lot with these characters. Like,
we have. They flash back to the silliest scenes you can imagine, by the way, across this entire franchise. But,
I mean, so as Maroon 5's, I think, Memories plays at the end of the thing, they flash back to scenes that of Eddie, Brock, and Venom interacting. The vast majority of which are from this movie.
Yeah. Remember when 1 hour ago they were walking down the street
45
together?
minutes earlier.
None of the iconic shots of Eddie Brock dancing around a fish tank, like jumping in a fish tank in the first movie, which is, I think, one of those things where people are like, this movie's weird. Why is Tom Hardy doing that? That's weird. Yeah.
Somebody watched, what was the film? Deadpool and Wolverine, right? Extremely minor spoiler for Deadpool and Wolverine, but in the end credits of Deadpool and Wolverine, they show scenes from Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine over the years, and somebody watched it and was like, "We got to do that," and managed to shove it into this movie.
It's only been like 5 years with these characters too. Basically, it's like we don't have the same amount of like love for this whole thing.
I am convinced.
I'm just gonna say this. I find it very disorienting whenever a movie shows scenes from the movie we just watched. Not like a cutback, but like literally a montage of like, I'm like, why are we literally just saw this? We don't need you to evoke the memory of the thing we just saw. You know,
I agree.
Anyway.
And even when it's to illustrate, like when somebody's like, oh, they put the key under the door, and it's like, go back to the scene. Like, no. I was just sitting here watching this whole movie. Give me a little credit that I can recall the scene when they put the key under the mat from 30 minutes ago.
I forgive that because not everyone is as smart as Jeff Kanata.
I hate that. I hate it.
But this is not plot related, Jeff. This is just we're trying to evoke some
wistful
feelings in you.
Wistful recalling.
Wistful from 36 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Remember that scene from 36 minutes ago? Anyway, sorry, Jeff.
I honestly think this movie considered only one job, and it doesn't seem like you guys agree with me, but I feel like this movie from dictated on high, it had one job, and that was set up the Juno Temple movie. That there's no reason to give her an origin story and then give her superpowers at the end.
Yeah.
Because she is completely ineffectual in this entire film. She has no function in this movie other than to be a setup for the next movie.
Well, you know what her team up is? She is a total Madame Web character. She's a character out of the movie Madame Web, plopped into this one. Nothing makes sense about their backgrounds, their potential powers, or anything. Yeah,
but
that's where we are.
Where they're setting up a Thanos, which, by the way, it is they just watched the first time that Thanos was introduced in the Marvel universe and were like, let's just do that, which was it was done badly then because they had no plan. They were just like, let's put a guy on the throne. Well, keep it dark so we don't, because we haven't.
They also did it
yet.
at the end of the movie though, Jeff, too.
Yes,
they were like,
that was
it's
not the bad guy of that movie.
Yes. I know this is it's an actual comic character, but the fact that this character's name is Null, which in tech speak just means nothing.
Yeah,
it's just like it's really emblematic of this entire problem.
Yeah, it's poetic. It's chef's kiss. Is what that is.
So Jeff, you're saying like, oh, we didn't even register that. I mean,
I'm not saying you register it. Maybe you don't agree, but tell me if you do.
I don't know that I honestly have an opinion one way or the other, because I don't know if you recall, Madam Web also introduced like a bunch of characters that were supposed to be really important in future iterations.
Right.
I don't think we're ever going to get another Madam Web movie. You know, similarly,
never seen the end of those
I highly
stories.
doubt there's going to be another Venom: The Legend Continues, or the Venom Legacy,
Venom: The Next Generation.
Yeah. So it's like were they trying to? Maybe, but I don't think in the end it matters really, because I don't think we're ever gonna.
There's no reason for the Juno Temple character to be in this movie, to have flashbacks, to get a literal superhero origin moment where lightning strikes her,
and then she like has this big transformation. Moment
for what? At the end, she does nothing. She's ineffectual. There's no point to it. It's the tune in next time, because there's a big bad character who's still looming and is a big threat. And is going to need the entire Sony not Spider-Verse to team up to defeat it.
Z tier, V tier, the V tier characters.
You guys have to admit, this has been one of the most bizarre experiences in experiments, I should say, in cinematic history, which is
the fact that it's worked at all, even to the tiniest extent.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It is something that an unhinged, coked out executive would think of, which is like, hey, we're gonna make an entire universe. We have the rights to Spider-Man, but we're kind of working with Marvel on the Spider-Man movies. but we have all the other characters that no one gives a shit about. You know, and sure, like if they can make people care about Ant-Man and Iron Man, we can make Kraven the Hunter movie.
Everybody loves
Kraven. We can make
a
Madam Web movie. We can make a Venom movie, and they're all going to connect. And people will love them, and some people will pay $856 million to see one of them.
This is the kids on the playground, and one of them pulls out of their pocket an incredible magic trick, and does the magic trick, and everyone standing around the kid on the playground is oohing and awing, and there's some kid in the corner who's like, I wish I had a magic trick. I know. And he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out fuzz, because that's all he has. And he's like, hey, everybody, look over here. Look at my fuzz. And that's these movies.
And that fuzz made over $1 billion. Which is what happened with this Venom franchise. I mean, I agree, Jeff. I agree. And yet, you're right. The fact that it worked at all is amazing. And we are seeing the kind of like sputtering, flailing end stage.
That's right.
The experiment, right?
That's exactly right.
Venom 2 made $350 million less than Venom 1. This movie's probably going to do worse than Venom 2. Madam Web was basically a bomb, and then we got Kraven the Hunter coming out this year. I will say, though...
that truly doesn't look bad, is the thing. I don't care about Kraven as a character, but what's his face? Kick-ass guy?
Aaron Taylor Johnson. I guarantee it will have all the same problems as this movie.
They have been making good trailers.
It will be less than 2 hours long. It will feel like it has been edited to shreds. There will be side characters that you don't understand why they're in the movie. That's going to be Kraven the Hunter, the movie. Mark this footage. I'm going to play it again on social media.
I got to say, you say it like it's a bad thing, but I'm grateful that these movies are less than 2 hours long.
Absolutely.
You're in and you're out.
Thank you. That's the one praise I will.
Yes, because they're bad. But if they were 2+ hours long and good, Jeff.
That doesn't seem possible.
Kraven, by the way, directed by J.C. Chander, who is a good director. So at times, anyway. But
can we just for a second?
Morbius was directed by Daniel Espinosa. So also
that's
a good director.
A little more hit or miss with that guy, but
Guys, I really don't think we have given enough discussion to Rhys Ifans' family and how batshit insane just the concept of this family is, which is the idea, the whole idea of these characters on the page is they're gonna humanize our character, gonna show him the life he should have, because they are a family that the dad believes so much in aliens that they gave up this is a
everything
family with young children. They gave up everything they own to drive to Area 51 just to see it. Okay, they want to go to Area 51 just to see it before they close it down and, I guess, melt it with acid.
That's it. But Jeff, I thought you would love
wait,
family.
before you go there.
Yeah.
Because when they get there, what do? They then just trespass inside to see, and then the dad has the heartbreaking moment where he goes, I guess there's no aliens here. No one, not even the craziest person, thinks that walking through the fence at Area 51, you'll see like housing for aliens. What did he think we was going to see?
Jeff, I thought you'd love this family because it's the logical conclusion of Captain Fantastic. Like that's it. That's it.
It's true. You're not wrong about that.
That's what that character will end up doing.
That is
First of all, Jeff, I'm sad. I'm sad that you don't know that many people take road trips without knowing what's going to be at the end of the road trip. Because that happens. It happens.
I think they're just on the road. They're just seeing the country.
I also think that I actually found it to be quite poignant. Like there were two parts of this movie I was moved at. One of them was that scene in the van when he's thinking, "Here's the life I could have had if I didn't have my body taken over by a strange alien symbiote." And it's like, oh, that is kind of And then the last part is when they're in the helicopter and saying goodbye to each other, and it's like, man, what I felt in those moments was, man, this could have been a really good movie.
Yes,
like, honestly,
that is what I'm saying.
Is this could have been a really good movie? No, it's not a good movie.
I don't think you can see a really good movie from where it's standing.
It's more like, how about this? Let me put it this way, Jeff. These scenes would have felt at home in a really good movie. Not necessarily this movie could have been a really good movie.
The 4.5 minutes of these scenes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the other thing, the reason I really like the Reese Ifans subplot is because we see some version of that in reality all the time, like specifically van life. Children, they're these people who make all this content on the internet, and they are like, they do van life videos, and they bring kids along on these like ridiculous adventures, and it's like, it's kind of cruel. There's been some of these kids are old enough now that they can speak out about it. If you Google, you can find like examples of this, and this is like, oh, this is kind of a Venom universe satirical take on those kinds of families, and where the daughter is like super self-aware. She's like, this is gonna cause me like psychological damage for the next 20 years. Like, she understands that she's in a horrifying situation. And so I was just like, oh, I like that it's a nod to how parents can sometimes ruin their children's lives using hashtag van life. So
okay,
I
mean, that's what I go to a Venom sequel for.
Absolutely. I don't know that it was a particularly effective critique. I mean, it was, as Devindra would say, it was a thing that happened.
It was a thing that happened. There are interesting elements to this movie bogged down by everything else. Like, guys, what happened to that plane? I love the cut to Venom and Eddie Brock hanging off the side of a plane. Like, take that, Tom Cruise.
Well, it keeps flying, so you're like, oh, well, I think it's going to be okay.
It lost an engine. It lost an engine. It's very high up.
It didn't lose an engine. The engine's a little bit smoked.
The engine was blowing up. Engine's not
why would you have a suit that can stop bullets? Why would he only have the suit on his hands on the edge of the airplane? Be a full Venom. So then you don't have the thing he's complaining about, which is the high wind and cold.
It's true. Be a full Venom.
You could be a full Venom.
Well, that was before he knew that becoming full Venom would make him recognizable by the codex. He could
have been
right?
full Venom, but then they were at certain points, which is how the thing found him.
He did become full Venom, did he not? And that's why the little creature recognized him. But you're right. For the first part of the trip, he wasn't.
Why would you attempt to hang onto the side of an airplane and not be full Venom? It makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, this should just be all on you.
Because sometimes if you're the symbiote, you like messing around with your host, like...
really do the thing that could potentially kill your host. That's a good idea as a symbiote. Did this franchise ever deal with the fact that Venom is eating people? It's biting people's heads off.
Well, he only eats bad guys.
The human, the host, is digesting that. That is what's inside.
That's right. That dude. Okay, I brought this up the last Venom movie, or maybe the first Venom movie. I brought this up at one point where it's like it is biting the head off of something. Where does that go? Okay, this movie makes it canon. Because it specifically calls out the fact that he eats a chocolate bar and they both taste it. That means that Eddie Brock is tasting human heads.
And he likes it. He's okay with it. Like, they're cool. They're buds.
Jeff's
He's not like
I rest my case.
This movie is explicit. Like, it doesn't want to. It doesn't want to leave that detail unresolved. So it has this entire chocolate candy bar situation. Just so we know that when one of them eats something, the other one tastes it.
I think Eddie Brock kind of has indigestion after like he bites off a couple heads at the beginning too. I'm like, that's gross, guys. This is full on.
He's the lethal protector, Devindra. You know, he's dangerous and kills people, but they're all bad.
We should also talk about.
It is funny how the movie even calls out the fact that, like, didn't we set up this whole lethal protector thing and aren't we doing that? And it's like, no, we're abandoning that.
Also, the failure of the Venom design, by the way, when the other Venoms appear, they just look like Venom. One's a slightly bigger Venom, one's an electricity Venom, but the face, the design doesn't actually change that much, which is just like, oh, this is just a failure at the top of the design of this character, basically.
It's true.
Shouldn't be doing any of this.
I thought it was kind of cool, all the little Venoms showing up at the end. You know, that was kind of
dumb.
They all look the same. They all look the same. I'm sorry. Is that specious? Is that, I don't want to be anti-Venom over here, but they all look the same.
Yeah. You can't tell the difference between the Venoms. I did like the fact that Tom Hardy was wearing a The City shirt the whole time, repping the Golden State Warriors. That was my favorite part of the movie.
That's the one part of the movie that you didn't hate.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks. Any other thoughts on Venom: The Last Dance?
Oh, one last thing. I did mention that the things I did like. I thought that sequence with in the water in the river was actually pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
and the like helicopter
and he kills a guy
with
a woman, I think.
Yeah,
the dude's hanging down from the helicopter. That was cool.
Oh yeah, with like little string,
dangly dudes.
Dangly dudes.
It seems
there are probably easier ways to do that.
I agree. It seems very like just sort of bad idea on the face of it, but a cool image. You know,
cool image. And
like,
they
how
dangle.
Do you start?
They dangle only to do the sound guns. Like you could like clearly have the technology to produce sound guns at the bottom of the helicopter.
Mount that sound gun on the chopper. No, we gotta have dangly dudes. Yeah. Anyway,
the underwater scene was pretty good. You know, while we're praising the movie Venom: The Last Dance, which is something I love doing, I have to say that, and I mentioned this in our weekly plugs, which you'll have heard by this point. But Matt Goldberg over at decodingeverything.com wrote about how this is the most pro-immigrant blockbuster in years. And
I mean, since Terminator, the last Terminator, but
it does have a pro-immigrant message, in my opinion.
It does?
Which is, hey, we have to keep these aliens out. The bad guys got to keep the aliens out. And it's like, oh, actually, the aliens, when they come in, they actually become part of us, make us better. More stronger, more powerful, and at the end
don't
of
look
the movie,
too closely at them because they look horrific. But,
they will literally bite your head off.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie,
they're eating the heads. They're eating the dogs.
And at the end of the movie, we're all gonna just watch the Statue of Liberty, the first thing that people saw when they arrived at Ellis Island.
Yeah,
so many years ago.
Thematic, endpoint here.
It's not subtle. It's not subtle, and
it's also not the place where you want to go watch the Statue of Liberty, like a random dock at the bottom of Manhattan. You're not going to see. You're not going to see anything.
There's a whole ferry you can take.
Yeah, multiple ferries. Yeah,
they clearly ran out of budget by that point. But anyway, props to a movie that can do that. So just gonna
the poignant, like, let's get to the Statue of Liberty is all caused by he just happened to look over and see a little tchotchke on the table, and that became the most important thing they could do.
Yeah,
okay,
that's really it.
But thematically, it does tie. Just ignore the biting off the head.
Dave was weeping at the end.
Wow,
they really could have seen that better. Like, what is the Spider-Man newspaper? Name's that Daily Bugle.
Daily Bugle, yeah.
You could have been like, job offer at the Daily Bugle.
Yeah, that would have been cool. That would
amazing
have been cool.
In this economy. A media job at the Daily Bugle? Wow.
Dying newspaper? Okay.
All right, folks. At the end of the day, despite everything we've just said, it's pretty impressive that Kelly Marcel made a movie.
Is it? I think sometimes we can ask that. At the very least, give me the multiverse Tobey Maguire crossover. You know, like if this is the last dance, give us our first dance with Venom, please, which destroyed the Raimi franchise.
I can't believe you guys aren't more angry about the actual dance in the movie.
It's bad. It's all bad.
Terrible.
Yeah, bad dance.
Thank you so much for watching this video of the Filmcast. Check out these other videos that we have available, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get other videos from us in the future.
You can also go to thefilmcast.com to catch all of our audio podcast versions of all of our episodes.
And support this podcast at patreon.com/filmpodcast, where you can sign up for ad-free episodes and exclusive After Darks.
Thanks so much to everyone who makes the Filmcast possible.